13 of the Pundit podcast. I'm joined by my co-host Simon Canton. I'm here, and with you as always, I'm Michael Block. We're going to talk to you this week, like every other week, or at least for the other 13 weeks, about TV shows, movies, entertainment news, general gossip, any nerd culture we can think of. You can get involved as well. Send us a question or a topic on Twitter at Bad Barrister, or at scanton on Twitter as well. Maybe next week, or as we go forward, you can help us create the show. And this week we're going to talk about a mixture of things. We're going to talk about TV shows. We're going to talk about some games. We're going to talk about some upcoming TV shows. And let's start it off with something we finished off with last week. We talked about Game of Thrones. Simon, you wrote a blog post this week. You're still a massive fan of Game of Thrones, and you're still saying, I mean, the thrust of your article was, and you can find that article on Simon's blog that he's mentioned a number of times, scanton.com. Is that right? SimonCanton.com. And the question of your article was, is Game of Thrones hitting a slump? Just to summarize, and I'm doing this from memory, I'd advise everyone to check it out. It's a short piece. You're making it absolutely clear. Look, even if it is having a slump, it's still one of the best things on TV. You're not just one of these internet haters. Hey, I've fair weather friends, great for 2 seasons, and then a few episodes go astray, and all of a sudden it's a terrible show. You're not saying that at all. But I think your biggest concern was here was a show that is always unpredictable. Even when you're trying to predict, it still catches you out. You don't quite know where it's at. And even if you're a follower of the books, yeah, okay, that might spoil certain things, but they may go another way. You were thinking maybe it's lost some of that spark in this particularly difficult season. I mean, again, the latest episode season 5, episode 6 is out. It's been a difficult season in the sense that a lot of the popular protagonists aren't interweaving between each other, or haven't done yet. They've all seemed to be off doing different missions in different worlds or different lands. There's been a lot of criticism for that, but I mean, having reflected on obviously in your blog post, maybe you'd like to sort of express what you mean by it's not as predictable, it's not as sharp as perhaps previous seasons. And then maybe we could talk about this week's episode just gone.
So yeah, so there's 2 issues I have with it at the moment, and the first is that there's no one really to root for in this season. So before we go ahead, I should say there's probably going to be spoilers.
Spoilers ahead.
For season 5 up to episode 6. So far at least, there's no one really to root for, at least I feel. So Tyrion is just being led around, basically, as a hostage, so he's can't do anything. What's her name? Viserys is not... Oh, Daenerys, I mean. Viserys is her brother. Daenerys has never been an interesting character for me, because... I don't know why. I think part of it is that she's over the other side of the world, so who cares what happens? Like, she's out of the main story. Now, granted, she's going to appear with her dragons, but to me, it could almost be like she's... If they had the stuff in season 1 where she's practically going to die, and then occasionally people go, hey, did you hear that woman with the dragons just took over a city? Or something like that back in Westeros?
Yeah.
Then you kind of go, what the heck? This woman with dragons is going to come and like mess some stuff up if they're not careful. And then pick it up when she's about to come back to Westeros, because really I don't care about what happens in Meereen. It seems like it's kind of... You can almost tell when the writers are making stuff up to fill time.
Or just to make it. Look, we need to have an episode where she's in a few scenes here doing something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people are going to forget she hasn't been killed in the Red Wedding or something like that, or whatever. I mean, for instance, in this episode just gone, I'm trying to think if she was even on screen at any stage. I actually think she wasn't. That's my general recollection. I might be wrong about that, but
Yeah, she might not have been in this episode. I can't remember. If she was, she didn't do anything significant, at least.
Exactly. I think she wasn't at all, which in fairness isn't unusual. That sometimes happens, like you have this every second episode type of format sometimes in previous seasons. But I mean, again, you know, a
Well, there's
dragon.
main characters that aren't going to be on screen for this whole season,
Yeah,
so that she's not on for an episode is fine. And
yeah,
Jon Snow, similarly, I don't think he was in the episode at all.
yeah.
And he's so Daenerys. I don't really care about
My
because she's not really
prediction
involved.
will be that. No, my prediction will be well next week it'll be Jon Snow and Daenerys, right? And that'll
Yeah,
be centrific. Yeah.
and both. I like Jon Snow as well. Is too Dudley Do Right. I just think he's boring.
Mm.
He's not a very interesting character, at least for me. Um, if he suddenly turned around and, like I think we mentioned in the previous episode, if he turned around and burnt all the ships and sent all the wildlings to the bottom of the ocean, then you go, holy crap, Jon Snow just got a lot more interesting. But he's not going to do that. He's going to be honourable until he gets killed by a wildling. Um, and then, like, you've got all the baddies, all of whom are not as interesting as Tywin was. Tywin was awesome. Tywin, as well, was a baddie in a way, I guess, because he was against the Starks for so long, but I mean, he was only looking out for his family. You've got Jaime and Bronn. Bronn is awesome, but he just hasn't had anything to do this season. It's all been like, he hasn't. He's trading a few quips with Jaime, but it's not as interesting as maybe Jaime and Brienne was before.
You're not the
Um,
first person to have mentioned something about that in terms of people were really expecting them to have a good bromance kind of chemistry, but not they really haven't gotten into that in any great way yet, or it doesn't seem to have gelled this particular um, mission, for want of a better word.
Well, they just haven't had. I don't know. Maybe I'm
A lot of free
misremembering, but they
time.
haven't had much talk. Like it cuts to them. They've only got a 2-minute scene, so they just have a battle and then it leaves. And someone mentioned on the What the Flick, I think, that the battle where Jaime and Bronn are battling the three Vipers felt like they said it was like it was 2 minutes out of Hercules, the TV show from the 90s. Like it just didn't feel like it was up to the quality of the other battles they've had in Game of Thrones.
Hmm.
So
Which is
um,
unusual because just maybe I could stop you on that because I'm a bit of a fair weather friend for Game of Thrones. I really enjoyed. I don't keep up like obviously I don't read the books, and to be honest, for the first couple of seasons I was like, well, I can't remember anyone's names. I'm still not much better than that, but I'm a little bit better, and I appreciate a little bit more of it. But I'm still enjoying it. But I'm far more non-dedicated fan. But this is the scene you're talking about is the culmination of. This is where he grabs the sword with his golden hand, isn't that right?
no, not the one on the beach against the random people.
Yeah.
The one against the three daughters of Oberyn.
Oh, okay. So
In the
basically,
gardens.
yeah, okay. Yeah, it was pretty whatever, wasn't it? Really, to be honest. I mean, these guys had little whips, and they came with swords, and
Well, someone pointed something out also on What the Flick that the Oberyn Martell was well known for poisoning the end of his spear,
mhm.
and Bronn got cut on his arm by one of the Sand Sisters. So if they also poisoned their weapons, well then Bronn's dead. Like it doesn't matter that he survived the battle; he'll just like slowly die unless maybe the king the king of the place they are
The-
has some kind of cure or something, I guess.
I'm assuming they did that in this instance, but yeah, yeah.
But it felt very much like a fight in which no one is allowed to die or get seriously injured,
Mm.
which is not like Game of Thrones at all. And then everyone was very upset about the rape scene with Sansa, but
Yeah, it's so difficult. It's so funny. I watched an entire kind of 30-minute podcast about this from IGN, and it's really weird. I mean, like for instance, people said things like, rape can never be a plot device. Well, of course it can be because it's like rape is a terrible thing, obviously. But like, how could you have filmed The Accused, which is a powerful movie? I think it won Jodie Foster her first Oscar. It was certainly that type of movie. when that is all about rape. But I mean, the reality is that, in fact, it's actually more disingenuous for people to review Game of Thrones full stop without, being. Actually, yes. Let me start again. To me, what shocked me, and people, was not the episode. It was the fact that people were shocked about it. People have
Mm.
been raped, or references to rape, and have been all over Game of Thrones. But it seems to be that when it happens to a particular character, there's a massive outcry. Whereas, if it happened to anybody else, look, Cersei, you know, with Jamie at the beginning of this season or at the end of last season, that's a particular, okay, slightly, that there was a rape there. She literally, was crying about it for one episode, no repercussions whatsoever. That's a legitimate maybe criticism of the plot device in that case, but we haven't seen what the reaction is going to be in this instance, right? But at the same time, just think of the world. I mean, this is not a world where it's all the hero. I mean, Jamie Lannister gets his hand chopped off. In any other sort of a show, circa 80s or 90s, they would never disfigure a leading character. They would.
But that was my other criticism of the show.
Killed, outright, slaughtered, in front of, their mother, whatever, absolutely killed in front of young children. The idea that this wasn't going to happen, I just don't understand it. The moment Littlefinger delivered Sansa Stark to that place, unless she had managed to leave, right, or escape, her option was simple. Don't get married and die trying to leave, right? I.e., get killed trying to escape, or be subject to this psychopath. I mean, the guy's a psychopath.
Yeah, but I think people were going to. There is more options than that. There's more options than that, though. People were assuming. So Sansa, ever since what's her name fell through the moon door, Sansa has been wearing black and has her hair dyed black and has been acting like she knows what's up.
Sure.
So I think, for me at least, my disappointment was not in the fact that it was a rape scene, because there's been plenty of rape, as you say. Like, if you think of Craster's Keep, for instance, there was like a couple of dozen women raped constantly in all the scenes with those rebel guys from the Night Watch.
Yeah.
They weren't main characters, but still, there was constant.
There's a double standard there. I mean, I'm not saying people were saying that's okay, but the outcry comes because it's a specific character that people have an affinity from. Yeah, but anyway.
My point was that it was predictable, and was my other criticism. My first criticism is that there's very few people.
Absolutely, and this goes back to your blog post, because this is the thing. It was entirely predictable. Which goes back to your criticism, which is a completely different type of criticism. But the idea people were shocked by this, it was the 100% most likely outcome. There were other possibilities that you're about to tell everybody, but it actually was clearly the most likely outcome. She was going to be, she was clearly on a course to get married to this person. Whether he did it gently or violently because he's a sadist, right? Is irrelevant. It still would have been rape. She didn't want to be there. She's not really consenting to the marriage. The whole concept of this arranged marriage vitiates any consent, whether she really wanted to be there or not, or what not, right? The fact that it was with Ramsay Bolton, I mean, we all knew which way it was going to go. It wasn't going to be pleasant, right? It was the most predictable outcome. I don't understand what the shock was. Everyone who was watching that show knew this was going to happen eventually, unless she had managed to get herself away from Castle Black.
Well, the only thing would have been if she'd been as smart as what's her name, Tyrell, the one was married to Joffrey. So Joffrey was a sadist and a psychopath. Is it Marjorie Tyrell? So Joffrey was a sadist and a psychopath, and she got him on her side. Whereas if she hadn't done that, he could well have done the same thing as Ramsay did now. But she got him on the side, like, I'm a fellow sadist and psychopath. Let's be sadists and psychopaths together, kind of thing. So
it would have resulted in this happening at some stage, sure.
Oh no, but they might have. I just think people are crediting. So if you remember back in the first few seasons, Sansa was an idiot.
Yeah.
And people are crediting Sansa's. I think that it's their hopes that Sansa is not an idiot anymore.
Hmm.
And I don't know that that's true, because your IQ doesn't necessarily go up just because Littlefinger fancies you and has taken you under his wing.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
the other possibility was, and it was quite a possibility, and clearly we were meant to think it was a possibility, and I think actually that was quite clever. The other possibility, which 90% of all people hoped, was go on, Theon, go on, save her, and get out of here, right? You know, have your redemption. And and that worked in two ways. One, having him in the room added to the shock and horror. It also meant the camera wasn't going to be fixated on these two people, you know, in this act, which in some respects, I mean, Sansa Stark got more sensitivity, right, than say another, as you say, um, lady wench number three, you know what I mean, would have gotten in a similar scene, right?
mm,
Calling it how it is, but the focus on his face. Again, some people criticize that because they thought that instead of focusing on the rape of Sansa Stark, that the actual direction of that episode made it seem as it was the story of um, Theon, you know,
but I
his
think that's.
fall, or it focused on him as if it was, you know, something to do with him more than her. I think it's both.
But I think in terms of the story, I think that rape had more effect. Like Sansa, if she did know, she must have known what was coming. Granted, she cried out and whatever because she was being raped. I mean, that would be a natural thing. But like, she knew it was coming, and she knows she has to put up with this until Littlefinger comes back and kills the Snows, or the Boltons, I mean, or Stannis comes down and rescues her, or whatever. So she knew she had to put up with this. So she maybe has no plan to resist in any way. So maybe the only turn in the story that this rape could possibly affect was Theon, because Theon could turn around and go, "I'm not Reek anymore," stab, stab. Um,
Well, a lot of people thought that was criticized if that is where they're going with this, you know. I think just back onto something else before we move on from it, not necessarily from this chat, is something you alluded to, which is people thought that, you know, Sansa had somehow grown up a bit. She was a little bit harder or a little bit wiser than she was before, and that was also evidenced by the bathtub scene with Miranda, or is
yeah,
it is
yeah,
that,
Miranda. I
yeah,
think
where she kind of
Sansa's
bit back at
delusional.
her. You know, it says, you know, I'm not afraid of you. I'm in my own home, and it's like, well, yeah, maybe she has grown, you know, a set here and there, but that's against maybe a conniving and dangerous woman, you know, who doesn't necessarily have the power. She knew she was about to be Ramsay Bolton's wife, and that this woman would have gotten into any trouble if she'd harmed her in any way. She realized that this woman was literally playing with her head and nothing more than that. So in that respect, it did show that she had some idea and cunning.
Well,
And
you
people
have
did
to remember.
than what came next. But I mean, whether she was, what more could she have done? You know, she couldn't have done anything more other than somebody coming in
Oh,
to save.
Miranda.
No, well, no, Sansa. I mean, she could stand up for herself, you know, to Miranda. But in terms of she had no, you know, what she was a captor. She is a captor. So what more could she have done? I mean, that's the tragedy of it all.
Like, so why? So the question then, if you go back to it, is why does she think that she's smarter than she was before? Because she hasn't done anything in terms of manipulation. She might think that she's manipulating Littlefinger, because, you know, she was like, "Oh, kiss, kiss. Oh, my aunt needs to get out of the way so we can be together," kind of thing. But Littlefinger was going to do that anyway. And the first chance Littlefinger has, he goes, "Oh, I've got Sansa Stark. Here you go." It's not like he's like, "Oh my God, I'm head over heels. I'll never leave your side." So,
That's 100% correct. I mean, you know, what'll it'll be interesting to see how the effect of this goes on. I mean, goes forward, and in terms of motivation. I mean, Littlefinger effectively led her up there, up the garden path for this to happen to her. He didn't give
and I could easily
what
see, like,
else could happen. This is a natural consequence of being married into this.
yeah,
She's not being married off to some, you know, um, naive king like Marjorie, right? who you could manipulate and maybe sort of maneuver. This is Ramsay Bolton. The guy is a psychopath. You know, irrespective of whether you could manipulate her or not, you were going to be abused in the process. She was sent out to die, is what I'm trying to say. Which
Not
could
necessarily die, but at least suffer. But then, like when Cersei says, "I want to see her head on a spike before you become,"
I mean, she was sent out to suffer. I mean, that's the reality of it. Now,
but
the
Cersei
question
said,
is whether she. See, I don't. My view is that this has just happened to her. She said that suffer. She had very little options. She couldn't tell Littlefinger, "No way, let's not do this."
I mean, so Cersei says, "I want to see Sansa's head on a spike before you become Warden of the North," and Littlefinger goes, "Yeah, no problem."
Well, do you think he's just being manipulative to Cersei?
I don't know, but I would not see him like his whole goal. So he fancied Sansa's mom.
Yeah.
But his whole goal has been to become king. So this is a major step in the direction of becoming king. So I see no problem. He'll probably go, "Oh well, it's a shame," and chop her head off.
Well, in terms of what he's done so far, I mean, you're absolutely correct. He hasn't shown any particular need to protect her.
He'll just get one of his whores to dye her hair red, and he'll be happy with that. I mean,
could well be. Could well be. I mean, well, yeah. I mean, obviously, again, as I said, that's a very sensitive topic. The rape topic, that sort of emanated out of this episode. Look, all of this stuff is and of course, all these kind of scenes, kind of triggering effect for people who obviously have their own history and background in that. So it's not a scene that any creator should go into, without putting some thought into it and some sense of sensitivity. I don't really get the shock factor of it. It's something that seemed to be an inevitable consequence of her situation, and it had been for a number of weeks. This, the moment she moved in there, it was like, this is not good news. I mean, I remember when Littlefinger is outside the castle, before the invitation. I'm thinking, you go in here, you're doomed. You are doomed. You may never get out of here. So the question for me is whether it's all part of a larger plan that she has accepted and knew this was going to happen, and now she just has to get through with it, which it might well be, or it's just a case of this is where she was at, and there'll be questions whether or not Theon will decide he's going to try and save her, which seems like he's the only person within touching distance at this time.
I mean, the interesting thing for me would have been in that scene for Theon behind Ramsay's back to produce some kind of sword, knife, whatever, or to be making a move, and for Sansa to wave him off. Because then that would have been, this is a bigger plan.
Because that would have been the double whammy, where you go, because to be honest, the way the camera was fixed was very much like the audience was left with, go on, just look, save her, and let's see what happens next, right? If the opening of the next episode was, okay, we know the act is in play or whatever, but that he finally takes the courage up to do that, and she does that, that would be quite interesting. But because you'd be going, what the fuck? But I mean, I don't think it's necessarily going to play out that way.
No. So there's two options, I think, from the writing standpoint. Either they have no plan, there is no surprise. What we see is what we get. Like Littlefinger. So Littlefinger's already said his plan. His plan is Stannis comes down, Stannis fights the Boltons. Either Stannis wins, in which case Littlefinger goes, hey, Sansa Stark, my best friend, you're on the side of the winning army.
Yeah.
Or the Boltons beat Stannis, in which case he goes, yeah, well, I mean, I helped you, I got you Sansa Stark, and I'm your best friend. Or both armies nearly wipe each other out, in which case he said that he's going to bring his army down and kill the remainders. So, he's got a win-win-win situation. He's got no way he can lose. And I don't think Sansa is any important part in that. If she gets killed in the battle, or he has to kill her later, I don't think he really cares.
Yeah, no, I think that's it. And again, the truth is that I just can't understand the shock. This is something that does happen for a while. It's awful. It's not something you want to see for anybody. obviously.
But it's just not the show for people who have those triggers. Like,
Oh,
I have every sympathy, obviously, for victims of rape or of violence or whatever. I mean, there's been plenty of domestic violence in the show as well, for
mm.
people who've been beaten by their parents or by whoever. But this is not the show for those people, and not to be exclusionary, but some shows just can't be for everyone.
No, but I do think yeah, I agree with that. But in a triggering environment, but what I do think is this: is that people have a right, from a writing point of view and from a narrative point of view, to expect the writers to at least deal with the fallout from incidents like that. So look, when it's, and I say this pejoratively, when it's barmaid number two gets attacked or molested or whatever, and you never see her again because she's either been killed or she's not whatever, you don't expect the writers to follow up with the story of what was going through with her. This situation where they've had a rape of a main character in the case of Jamie and Cersei, and they really didn't deal with it in any particular way. They may well say, well, that's because these two were lovers already, etc. But they kind of, they kind of shied away from that kind of thing and dealing with it in any sort of sensitive way. That caused some uproar. The reality is that you might say that everything that's happened afterwards is the consequence of everything that's happened to those people, including that.
Well, well, the Cersei and Jamie thing.
Cersei at the moment is acting, and I think it's quite brilliant because you said it in your article, she is acting really dumb and stupid, but it's deliberate. Like it's deliberately stupid and dumb in the sense that the writers, she doesn't know it, that the character doesn't know it's stupid,
But she's not smart at all. She's going to destroy her family, basically. I mean, they only have Tommen because otherwise, I mean, you could have a king from the south marrying what's her face as the last Lannister. But otherwise, Tommen is the only link, and he's a bastard. So there's no, if that gets exposed, then the Lannisters are out completely. There's no Lannisters there. So
and let's face it, Tommen is an empty chair on the throne.
oh yeah, it's Cersei who's really ruling. But what's his name? That's in the religious thing, the one that Cersei slept with, her cousin.
Yeah.
All he has to do is turn around and say, "Oh yeah, I slept with her. She slept with all of the brothers and sisters and cousins and uncles and aunts and whatever, and she's done. Lannisters are done." So Cersei is just an idiot. I mean, complete idiot. Like,
she's playing with fire. So far, it's managed to fall into place for her.
Yeah, but I think that's mostly down to the what's his name, the head religious guy, because for him it suits to get the Tyrells out of there first.
No, absolutely. All right, we're going to move on to this topic. One thing, predictions, just random predictions, fun predictions. What's going to happen in next week's episode coming up?
So I've already had a book spoiler.
Fantastic combination of words. Never heard of a cock merchant before. I'm very excited to get maybe a figurine, an action figure.
It just reminded me of the Futurama episode where they have the same thing. But I've had one thing spoiled for me already to do with Sansa's situation. Because someone said, "Oh, this happens in the books, so I wonder if that's going to happen." I was like, "F you, dude! Thanks for."
Don't tell me that, but I mean, on stuff that you.
No, I won't tell you that. But like that was really like, because the book people now think that they can't spoil things, because they think, well, the show's gone in a different direction, but they can still take things from the books. That thing that he mentioned happened.
Like, I watched The Following, which just had its season finale, a double episode, and like, even The Following's Twitter account made some cryptic tweet. I know you don't watch it, so whatever, saying like, "Oh, we told you not to trust anyone," and it's a picture of some random dude who obviously turned out to be more important than you thought, right? So, and it's like, so I went in to watch that episode, and I literally saw it for half a second, and then I was like, "Oh, turn off Twitter." So it wasn't even like a big warning, but it was their own bloody social media account. I like within 24 hours of the episode having been aired in America. And okay, probably was spoiled like live, but I wasn't up at 3 o'clock in the morning, so thought I was pretty safe, So to me, like that's just crazy ass shit, you know. And it's yeah, it's just
Should be
really
48 hours. Like, give it 48 hours, and then you can spoil whatever was in that episode. Because if anyone who really loves the show is going to have already watched it. But
mm,
people are in different time zones. You have to give them a chance. Like 48 hours is
people
more than
are,
generous.
even people are DVRing it in America, you
Yeah.
know. But anyway, okay, I have no idea what next week. I do think it'll be more centric around Jon Snow and Daenerys.
But what's Jon Snow going to do? The army's left. He's got the wildlings to move, but to me, that's really a tedious storyline. I have no
I
interest in
mean,
that
what
at
I'd
all.
like to see is obviously Tyrion in the arena, you know. But we'll see. The grayscale, what's
Hmm.
yeah. Were you saying to me that that can last up to 10 years? You can survive up to 10 years.
Oh no, I don't know.
I think I
Maybe
heard
I said that and I've
something
forgotten it or
that
something. But
yeah, that maybe you could last up to 10 years before it gets all of you and stuff. But I mean, I'm not sure about that. But I'd like to see some of that. It'd be good to see some. As you say, it's 6 episodes into a 10 episode arc, is it?
yeah, 10 episodes total.
So, I mean, we're we're getting very close to the kind of red wedding territory where there's going to be some episode where several people get absolutely slaughtered if that happens this season. Um,
I mean, if it's going to happen, if all the good guys die this time, it's just like, oh well, that was predictable.
I could see
It has
Tommen
to be a
die.
surprise.
He doesn't serve any purpose, and it would really shaft seriously.
Oh, Tommen dies. That's the end of the Lannisters. Like the next in succession is probably
It's Jamie, isn't it?
well, no, he can't be because he's Kingsguard.
Is
If you
he?
join the Kingsguard, you're exempt from any succession for life. And without Tommen on the throne, so with Tommen on the throne, Tommen just goes, royal decree, Jamie's now no longer a Kingsguard and he's back in succession. But without him, then you'd get every single ruler in the land going, no, screw that, he's one of the Kingsguard, he's not allowed. Same as if you join the Night's Watch, you're not allowed.
Hmm.
So then it'd be going to, it could go actually to the cousin that Cersei was screwing. That'd be interesting. Like this religious nutbag on the throne.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if they're going to survive so long, those guys. Somebody's going to have to take them out before the episode 10 rolls away.
Hmm. I want some kind of interesting storyline, and the more people that actually, if they ended season 5 by eliminating like half of their storylines, I'd actually think that would be a good thing because they've just got too much to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, just the last shout out to Jonathan Price, for, always a fantastic actor, great voice, doing a good job as the tricky lawyer, religious zealot, and it's good to have him kind of rock up as well. I'm going to move to a next topic. I'm not going to talk too long about this. There's a story here today. I mean, I just picked up. It's all over the web, but I mean, I just picked up the Polygon article, Brian Crescente, and it's about Rockstar suing the BBC over the upcoming GTA drama. Now, I certainly had
Oh,
read
no,
it.
not Rockstar suing. It's
Well,
about
yeah,
Take Two suing.
yeah, Take Two.
Rockstar, I don't think would be that stupid. I think it's
Well,
Take
Take
Two.
Two is their parent company, who obviously own the IP
Yeah,
that
they own the IP, but they, like, if it was the Rockstar, if it was like the development company would go, excellent, free publicity, thanks very much. But Take Two, being a corporation, are like, oh no, we have to lawyer this up. Our
Yeah, but I
market.
think they may have, well, this is what's interesting about this. I mean, again, as I said, this has been widely reported, and in fact, previous to this, there'd been chat about Daniel Radcliffe playing one of the roles here of yeah, Sam Hauser, who's obviously one of the co-founders of Rockstar. And you kind of think to yourself, oh yeah, sure, they'll do some sort of biopic type of thing, like a Steve Jobs type of thing. And obviously there was controversy in the early '90s, early 2000s, or late '90s, early 2000s about the violence of the game, and from humble beginnings to this
Well,
multi-billion
there's
franchise.
been controversy for every game they've ever made.
Absolutely,
Other than the ping pong one.
and it'd be an interesting story. I have to say though, unless it's very sexy, I'm not sure if it's a film I necessarily have a huge amount of interest because it's a bit like The People versus Larry Flint. Actually, it's a really well-made movie, but like it didn't really, it's not something that I was like, yeah, that's something I really want to know an awful lot. I'm not fascinated by his fight
Well,
the legal system for free speech, etc., over Hustler or whatever magazine he was into. So, but at the
well,
same time, it was a well-made movie, so, and maybe this would be similar to that. And also, the BBC generally do a good job on these things. But if I could just read the thing, this is what kind of surprised me, is that they filed a lawsuit. So they said they filed, so that means they've issued summons. I'd be curious to actually know where. I mean, have they done it in the UK? Over the broadcaster's upcoming unauthorized television show. And again, I'm reading from Brian Crescenti's article in Polygon today about it's a television show about the birth, growth, and controversy of Grand Theft Auto developer Rockstar Games. The suit was filed in London Thursday morning, so they filed in London, which means it's probably some sort of plenary summons. The BBC Two's upcoming show, so if they even know it was a BBC Two show, Game Changer, and that's the name of the show, is meant to be a 90-minute drama directed by Owen Harris. James Wood, who wrote and produced Rev for BBC, is reportedly writing the script for the show. The star of the Harry Potter films, British actor Daniel Radcliffe, reported in negotiations to play co-founder Sam Houser. So it's at a very early stage. They haven't obviously shot a single frame. The show is said to be a dramatization of Rockstar Games and Grand Theft Auto's success, as well as the subsequent fallout of various groups objected to its violent gameplay. Reach for comment this morning. Take-Two sent the following statement to Polygon. This is interesting. Quote, Take-Two Interactive has filed suit against BBC for trademark infringement based on their movie, currently titled Game Changer, as it relates to Rockstar Games' Grand Theft Auto video game series. While holders of the trademarks referenced in the film title Game Changer, that I don't understand. While holders of the trademarks referenced in the film title, this is Game Changer is the film title, is what I heard. So, and its promotion, Rockstar Games has had no involvement with the project. Our goal is to ensure that our trademarks are not misused in the BBC's pursuit of an unofficial depiction of purported events related to Rockstar Games. We've attempted multiple times to resolve the matter with the BBC without any meaningful resolution. It's our obligation to protect our intellectual property, and unfortunately, in this case, litigation was necessary. But what I don't understand is if the drama is not called Grand Theft Auto, the true story, which at least would be.
I would guess that there's a subtitle, like that there's a colon there, Game Changer, the Grand Theft Auto story, or something like that.
Okay, if there was, at least the Grand Theft Auto would be something that they own the IP to. But again, one wonders if they could just simply stop anyone, making a film about Grand Theft Auto, right?
There's two things to it. So, on the one hand, if you read the BBC's reason for making it, the BBC is making this fact-based movie to encourage kids, to let them know that the British tech industry has had successes like Grand Theft Auto. So it's obviously going to be pro Grand Theft Auto and the company. Like, you don't encourage people to go into the tech industry by doing this horrible piece where you say these guys are atrocious and you shouldn't go near them.
Yeah.
So it's obviously pro the industry and pro games and all that kind of stuff. And they're trying to say, look, this Grand Theft Auto came out of the UK, isn't this great? So on that point, like, you would want that movie. You would help them out. You would give them access to stuff. You wouldn't block them off. That'd be stupid.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know if it. I mean, I doubt it's going to be a hatch job, and also it doesn't need to be a documentary. It seems to be more like Rogue Trader, a bit like the Nick Leeson story that.
Or a Social Network or anything like that. Yeah.
So which kind of sexied up what was a bit of a a horrible crime, that kind of way, or the Social Network or whatever. I'm sure there's elements of it. It's not all going to be like Daniel Radcliffe as Hauser is like a horrible person. It'll be nuanced, one presumes. It's certainly not going to be a hatchet piece.
No.
But what I'm more concerned about is the title doesn't seem to reference it, so I'm not sure where the objection could be. Put simply like this, I don't understand the infringement of any intellectual property by the making of a show about true life facts.
Yeah. Like they could potentially.
So is every unofficial biography. It doesn't mean you can't tell the story of Kevin Peterson or whatever. Or Tiger Woods, or whatever it happens to be.
Like, you can say it, if you said the official Rockstar movie, or something like that, well then obviously you can't say that. You're not the official Rockstar. Rockstar aren't making it. But if you just say the story behind Grand Theft Auto, or something like that, like, I could make up some bullshit. I could say, I could write a fictional book saying Simon Canton and Michael Block made Grand Theft Auto in the 1990s, blah blah blah, and
Exactly. That's the point I'm trying to make, Simon, and I know you're very au fait with this, which is even the words Grand Theft Auto, which may be trademarked. I'm not even sure if they are, but they could be trademarked in a games capacity. The words themselves are not owned by Rockstar. Grand Theft Auto is a phrase that's been around before them making their game.
yeah, I mean there was a Ron Howard movie even called Grand Theft Auto.
Exactly. Now, what you can't do is call your movie Grand Theft Auto. Nothing wrong with calling it that, and pass it off as it being something else. Because now what you're doing is, you make a Grand Theft Auto movie, right? And you call it Grand Theft Auto. I mean, actually, you could make a Grand Theft Auto movie and not even call it Grand Theft Auto. But if the nature of the movie was such that it seemed like you were trading off of their goodwill, that would be civilly wrong for loads of different reasons. But it wouldn't necessarily be because you used those words or that IP. It might be the way you use them. For instance, if you remade Grand Theft Auto shot for shot, like the story of Nico Bellic, Grand Theft Auto 4, or the story of Michael and whatever, almost word for word, changing the names and the title, right? But you made that video game story, the story mode, into a movie, right? You could easily say that was passing off their script, etc., that they own into your movie, or you simply plagiarize their script, albeit in a video game, into a live action thing, and that would be a problem. But I don't understand, an original work based on the true life, facts of a creator, who of a particular thing could be. But we'll see. I often
they could sue them if after they see the script or after the movie comes out. They could sue them for slander or whatever.
yes, they could do.
They could say you said that I'm a complete asshole and I'm not, or you need to prove that I did these horrible things or whatever. But you can't sue. So I mean, the other thing is though that companies have gotten really litigious in the games industry because they figured out that just like the patent trolls can make lots of money out of patent trolling, they can make lots of money out of suing people for no reason. Like they said, Space Marine. There was someone that tried to sue for the word Space Marine. So they had I think it was Warhammer, but I could be wrong. So they have a game called Warhammer something something Space Marine. And then someone else put in their movie or book or whatever it was the word Space Marine, and the company behind them sued these guys and said, no, Space Marine is our trademark. And they had to go to court and say, Space Marine has been around for decades. I mean, Aliens is Space Marines. I mean, you can't say that your game that was made in the 2000s has invented the word Space Marines. There was books probably with that like decades ago. But they're just like, let's take people to court because we've got lots of money and we can hopefully win sometimes and get lots of money out of them.
Yeah, and I mean, there may be more to this as well because I mean, this article is only breaking, and there may be other elements of which they know. But by and large, just on the basic of what's before me in the article, it does seem questionable. But again, we don't know all the facts, and clearly we don't have any of the summons. Maybe there's something else that's going on here. Maybe they have seen a copy of the script in advance, and they're not happy with certain aspects of it. But again, that wowould be more to do with other things. I'm not quite sure about the intellectual property aspect of it. But again, it may well be. It seems to me that it hasn't even filmed. So it seems to me like, well, hang on a second. How could they have infringed your IP yet?
Well, I mean, you could be right. If they've read the script and they don't like it, they're just bringing a nuisance suit, which the BBC then has to defend in court and rack up loads of lawyer fees, and they'll go, screw this, we won't even make it.
Oh yeah, no, totally. I mean, there's always tactical litigation, or it may be, as you say. You see, that's what I think. See, somewhat something you alluded to. Maybe they see the script and they consider it slanderous. But if that's it, then the article should say we are suing these guys for slander. We look for an injunction because they're about to tell a story we think is untrue, and we're not waiting for it to be told to be untrue to then look for an injunction because the damage will be done, right? So that's fair enough. In fact, in this country, over the last 2 weeks, there's been Dennis O'Brien against RTE, and he succeeded in an injunction today. And in fact, although the judgment and the arguments have been going on in open court, there's a injunction on the reporting of it. So any citizen can walk into court and listen to it, although no one could be bothered. But actually, even though it's read at an open court, the journalists all have a note of it. They've been sitting in there tweeting from there, going, I can tweet this, but I can't tweet the rest of it.
Mm.
There's a reporting ban. And I can understand that. And maybe that's why the press release doesn't refer to maybe the true thing, because if there was a sniff that there was defamatory or slanderous scripting that they want to stop, people would try and find out about it first before they could stop it. And, then it's all like the cat's out of the bag, what's the point of getting an injunction? So maybe there's something about that. And I wonder if that must be it, because it doesn't sound right the way it's been scripted up. But anyway, we'll move on. We've only got a few more things to talk about. And I'm going to just talk about one thing, just very much a recommendation. I've been watching American Odyssey. It's with Anna Friel. It's kind of a bit of a low budget kind of strike back type of thing. There's a story about her going on. She's an American soldier. And
it kind of looked like Homeland. Is it kind of like that, or?
Well, because what it is there's a story back home where there's Peter Facinelli, who played the dad in Twilight, is kind of an ex-attorney general who's working for a company. He's just starting a company, and he, all righteous and moral indignation. His story takes place there. There's a son as well who's an activist, and he kind of finds out some information too. His story gets place there. Meanwhile, over in Afghanistan, there's this group of soldiers, one of which is Anna Friel, who's a female soldier. What happens is they kill somebody like an Osama bin Laden thing randomly. They didn't think you'd be there, and they find a bunch of stuff on computers. And this is not a big spoiler because it's the whole premise of the first episode, the first 20 minutes. She finds something on a disk drive, information which is a bit suspect, not quite sure what it's at. They call into back home. Everyone goes, okay, cool, do nothing, don't download anything, leave everything alone. We're going to get a team to come in. The team comes in, takes away everything, and the Americans are told, you've done a great job, come on home. They never make it home. They're literally bombed out of the sky, right? And she's the only one left alive, and she tries to find her way home. You're left under no doubt that she's effective. It looks very likely that her squad has been taken out, and they think they've taken her out too by the Americans. That's certainly the way it's left. And who does she trust? So she's in the middle of Afghanistan or wherever it is, trying to get home. Meanwhile, her husband and child are being told she's dead. The nation's being told she's dead. This kid activist is kind of doing a sort of protest on Wall Street sort of stuff. And he gets wind, along with some other sort of paranoid computer freak. He finds out that she may still be alive, and they sort of start questioning that, and they get themselves into trouble. Meanwhile, that kind of gets back to this bigger, higher-powered ex-attorney general who is trying to find out, what's going on. So there's information there which is damaging to powerful people, and they're trying to both kill her because she's loose in foreign soil, and they're also trying to eliminate people back in American territory. So it's kind of got that kind of thing about it. There's a bit of Homeland in it. There's a bit of interesting stuff. I think Anna Friel's doing a great job on that. She's obviously a British actress, and it's actually quite interesting. I think it's quite good so far. So I definitely recommend that. I will say I've also been watching. This week. I watched all of season 1 of Smash, which I'd never got to see, which is kind of like a musical Glee kind of thing for slightly older, maybe kind of more musical theater types rather than people in school. And I really enjoyed the first season of that. Actually really good. Maybe you should definitely recommend that to Heidi if you can catch that. And that's that for TV recommendations. Want to talk to you. I want you to tell me a little bit about this thing that you showed me. A trailer for the film The Brink. I'm looking at it on IMDb.
Oh, it's a TV show, but yeah.
It's a TV show, and it seems to have a number of different people starring in it. Tell us about this. How did you find out about it?
So, I follow HBO Nordic, obviously, on Twitter and on Facebook and stuff, because they are always saying what's coming up. So, The Brink they've been talking about for a little while. It's going to be coming June 22nd, it says here. And it stars Jack Black and Tim Robbins. So Jack Black is kind of he's in the embassy kind of staff in some Middle Eastern country. And there is some kind of uprising or something. It's not very clear from the trailer. and he's basically in the middle of a dangerous situation.
Yeah, I mean, the
And,
storyline here in IMDb, it's quite cool. Top U.S. government and military scramble to prevent World War III from happening amidst the chaos of a geopolitical crisis. Snappy.
yeah. Obviously, it's Jack Black, so it's a comedy.
Yeah.
Um, it's not. It seemed like it was kind of underlying seriousness with a lot of witty banter kind of stuff, like that kind of comedy.
Could it
So
be like
not ne-
Spin City with, you know, the Pentagon instead of politics?
the Michael J. Fox show.
Yeah, Charlie Sheen did it
No,
as
no, I don't think like that. I
well.
think it'd be more. What kind of show would be similar? Like Spies Like Us, almost maybe. It's kind of that kind of thing, where the situation they're in is serious, but they're making quips like "doctor, doctor, doctor, doctor,"
Well,
that kind of thing.
I mean, he's always worth a watch for sure.
Like Jack Black, I think has a fair bit of range in the stuff I've seen him in. Like School of Rock, he was really good. Pick of Destiny was underrated, I think, as a movie. That was really funny. So, yeah, I'd be interested. I'll watch at least one episode, find out what it's like.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, it's on HBO Nordic and HBO Normal. Presumably, then, if it gets picked up or it does well, it'll probably be on Sky Atlantic, who seem to have the HBO type shows, deals here,
I
Uh,
would guess with the cast it's got that it'll probably be on Sky pretty quickly because if you say to someone watching Sky, hey, here's the new Jack Black, Tim Robbins film, or TV show, I mean, they'll go, oh, well, I've heard of them, so I'll check it out. Like, it's got name, it's not like, Random Joe #2 kind of in it, so people will at least check out the first episode, so I would guess they'll pick it up pretty quick.
Yeah, well, that's good. Well, anyway, again, at least on this podcast, we try and sort of at least recommend stuff we've seen. Like, as I said, Smash is an old series, but I watched it the first time, and it's good to definitely have a look at that. But I mean, again, I think over the last few weeks we've been talking about new shows coming up, and it's definitely good to give something new a try because certainly we've seen an awful lot of the old stuff that's still hanging around. Good to support people who are trying some new stuff. Yeah, and it'd be good to see. I mean, look, there's very little good comedy on at the moment. Actually, just even to be on that, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head stuff. I mean, I love shows like I love Banshee, and again, if I haven't said it enough to you, Simon, you should watch that show. It's a really good show.
Well, I said to you, I did watch it. It's not for me.
Yeah, I'm telling you again.
It's an episodic thing. I'm not into episodic shows anymore. I just can't watch them.
Well, I don't know. I think actually you would love it if you gave it a bit of a chance.
I've given it 7 or 8 episodes. There is no more chance I can give it. I am bored to death.
I can argue no more for Banshee then. But I mean, like, I love that. I like Game of Thrones. I even watch The Following. A lot of the stuff I'm watching at the moment is, very little comedy in it. And I can't really think of too much comedy that I'm watching.
The funniest things I watch on TV at the moment are BBC panel shows. Like Have I Got News for You, or 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, even the comedy that I watch, like Orange is the New Black, or even Grace and Frankie, I mean, it's more dry kind of stuff. It's not like...
Orange is the New Black, I would say, is a drama with some light moments.
I agree. I mean, that's what I mean. There's very little comedy, where you got mugging to the camera or that kind of typical Jack Black kind of a thing going on. So it'd be interesting to sort of see how that goes. You also saw another, you want to tell the audience about another show, Dark Matter?
Yeah, no, I only caught the trailer like an hour ago, so I don't know much behind it. It's the creators of Stargate, the TV show Stargate, and it's six people who wake up on a spaceship, and they can't remember anything. So they don't know why they're on the spaceship, and they don't know why they all have amnesia. And from the trailer, they all, as they're exploring the ship, know how to do stuff, but they don't know why. So one of them can fly a shuttle, and he's like, I don't know why I can fly a shuttle. And another one grabs a couple of swords off the wall and starts swinging them around, and knows exactly how to fight with swords. And it looked interesting because I watched Stargate Universe, and Stargate Universe got cancelled after 2 seasons. And Stargate SG-1 was a kind of a family show, episodic kind of thing, where they go to a planet and solve whatever problem the planet has, and then go back to their home, go back to Earth, and then solve the next planet, and so on. Which wasn't for me. And then Stargate Universe is very dark. Lots of people die. So the plot of it is they Stargates are portals between 2 points in the galaxy, and usually there's like a limit to how far you can go. So they can go from Earth to 500 light years away, but not further. And they find this super duper Stargate on this planet. They have like a volcanic planet where they can get extra energy, so it can go a super long way. And they find a Stargate across the other side of the galaxy from us. And they go, okay, well, let's jump there. And while they're jumping there, this enemy fleet attacks. So I don't know all the background of all the stuff that's happening in the Stargate universe there in SG-1. But the enemy fleet attacks, so the only way to escape is for everyone to go through this portal. And they've come out in this ancient ship that has been traveling across the galaxy for thousands and thousands of years, if not millions of years. And it's falling to bits. So because it's so old, the oxygen scrubbers don't work, and there's no way to get water, and there's no power, and they don't know how to use the ship because it's written in a different language, and they've no idea how the controls work, and all this kind of stuff. So they're screwed. So it's really dark, and then everyone is panicking, and everyone's like, well, who cares if you're military? I don't care. Like, I'm taking... Like, some people have brought a little bit of food through, and they're like, well, screw you guys. I'm taking this food, and I'm going to eat it all myself, because, like, they've no way of getting back. So the planet they came from had loads of volcanic eruptions, which meant that they had enough power to get there. They're on a ship which doesn't even have power to power the lights in some places. So they're like, okay, well, we're not going anywhere. We're across the other side of the galaxy. We have no way of getting back to Earth, and we need to kind of survive. So it's quite a dark show. And Dark Matter then seems like it's similar in tone. I don't know until I actually watch an episode. But Stargate Universe got cancelled after 2 seasons completely because it was stuck with the name it had. So the fans of Stargate SG-1 and Stargate Atlantis wouldn't watch it. It's not a family show. Like, they curse, and there's people getting killed, and people having sex, and all this kind of stuff. So it's far more of an adult show. And all the adults who would have liked to watch it went, Stargate, no, I've watched Stargate SG-1, that's not for me. Like, so it was completely caught by the fact that it was using the wrong name. If it had used another name for an adult kind of show, it would have worked really well. So what I'm hoping is Dark Matter is their attempt to do the same again, but with a different name. To do another dark show where people can get killed, and there's, serious kind of adult tone to it, but not use the Stargate name to it, because that kind of killed the previous show.
Yeah, it's funny. The show was pitched in the studio as a 4-volume graphic novel released through Dark Horse Comics. So that certainly would have, Dark Horse would certainly have. Well, you wouldn't back away from sort of serious material if it had to. It's interesting. It seems like the first episode is up on Hulu Plus for free, but only in America. Obviously, I'm not sure if you can get it in Norway. And it doesn't seem to have hit anywhere.
We might see it eventually on Netflix or something. It'll probably be a year before I get to see it. I only saw the trailer because we were looking at other trailers, and it pops up in the also watched stuff.
Well, it's funny because I certainly know when we were growing up, there's a lot of sci-fi on TV, but when I look at it now, I'm trying to think, what sci-fi do I watch? I mean, when we were growing up, there was The Next Generation, and after that, and that went for so many seasons, and it was good. I mean, I know we were younger and whatever, but it was good, and it did a lot of good things. It was of a quality. And then when that wound up for a while, then you had Deep Space Nine, I think, and then you had Voyager, and then you had um,
Enterprise.
the Enterprise. And when you
Enterprise
put
was brilliant.
yeah, and when you put that together, I mean, I'm just trying to think. Next Generation probably went on for what, 8 seasons?
A 10, I'd say, or more. Like, it was on for a
Yeah,
decade.
for 10 years, right? And then after that, you probably had 2 or 3 years of Deep Space Nine. It was never as popular. And then you had maybe 4 to 5 years of Voyager, and then 3 years maybe of Enterprise. I mean, you effectively had 20 years, of you know
Or as well off, there was 7 seasons of Next Generation.
seven. Yeah, so
And
I'd say there was a good 15 odd years, of that series on the show. At something like Star Trek on the TV for 15 years. And
mm, like,
when you
so
look at it now, what's out there now? I mean, Battlestar Galactica was great. I mean, I didn't watch it. I watched a lot of it when it was straight out, and then after the second or third season, it got a bit like too much for me. But I went back and bought a box set, and then watched and absolutely marathoned it over some summer. So it was good when that was on too. But when you think about that, that was a show that was coming on, every week. People were mad into that show. But in terms of sci-fi, currently, I'm just wondering what's out there now.
so it depends. If you mean sci-fi on a spaceship,
Well,
there's not much. There is on the movies, obviously. There's Guardians of the Galaxy.
sure, Interstellar.
In terms of games, obviously we've got Mass Effect and stuff like that. Mass Effect's coming back with a new game sometime soon.
Yeah, yeah.
But in
There is
terms of TV, there's
developer
not that much really. I think it's an expensive thing to do, and
to do
with
well. I think it is an
sci-fi,
expensive thing to do well,
mm,
and you need a big audience then, and an almost guaranteed big audience. In fact, it's amazing what they did with some of those shows at a time. You know, I know, like for Star Trek: The Next Generation, a lot of these shots of the ship are just kind of recast all along, and in fact, mostly it's an internal set type of thing. But um, the show pieced well together, considering I'm sure they had a fraction of the budgets that some shows have now, and a cast that's
oh,
earning a fraction of the money some people on TV are earning now.
I think they had a fair old budget for Next Generation. I mean, if you consider the size of the cast of main characters.
Yeah, but I doubt any of those guys were getting 1 million an episode like the guys on Friends were at the end. So
Well, well, I heard a funny thing about Will Wheaton, who played Wesley Crusher. So he said that it was like season 4 or something, and at that stage he was a main character, and his agent and he asked for more money per episode because they went, oh, I'm now a recurring main character, and I'm in every episode and all this kind of stuff. And the studio came back and said, okay, we can't give you any more money, but we could make your character a lieutenant. And Will Wheaton was like, what the frick? Why do I care if my character's a lieutenant? That has nothing to do with anything. It's not a real promotion. That's a making up the universe. You can't say, you just promoted me. That's not... anyway. So he then went, screw this noise, I'm leaving the show. I think they were probably locked down in long-term contracts anyway, and then I don't think they got tons of money. But especially with a cast that size, you couldn't pay everyone a lot. But
no, you couldn't. But when you think about it, and don't get me wrong, Friends was a fantastic show. I mean, I remember you introducing me to Friends. You gave me long play VHS recordings because I hadn't watched the first 2 to 3 seasons, and you were like, "Oh, look, here you go." I think you gave them to me because I was living in Fitzwilliam at the time, and I watched them over a summer. And you got me into it, and I think I watched it all the way through to the end then. But okay, the truth is that was a phenomenal successful show, and it will go on in syndication for forever, practically. But when you think about it, and I don't know the figures because I didn't know at the time, I'm sure Next Generation was as popular at the time. Again, it is a bigger cast, but it was probably, and it's probably gone into syndication all over the world, to a similar level of money. I'd say it made, I wouldn't be surprised, I could be completely wrong, but I'd say that the Next Generation made a lot of money, compared, and I'd say it would compare well with the Friends franchise. I might be wrong.
So,
You have a
uh, Next Generation, 8.5 million in its first season, then 9.14, and then it went up to about 12, just 11.5 million in 91, 92.
viewers
That's
or viewers, is it?
number of viewers in America probably watching it live. And then it started going down, down, down until the end. It was down to 4 million. Um, so 4 million was at the time. 10 million was good, especially for sci-fi. But 4 million was atrociously bad. Like it's no surprise that really then it's. I don't think it got cancelled. They just wound it down. Uh, so yeah, it's anyway. There's no point in me reading the article. But yeah, no, sci-fi is gone to urban sci-fi and urban fantasy now, speculative stuff, because that's much cheaper to make. Like I'm watching 12 Monkeys at the moment,
Yeah.
and 12 Monkeys is set in 2015, and the guy comes back from 2043, but he's gone to 2015, so you don't have to worry about the cars in the background or what people are wearing or anything like that. And then in the future, it's a post-apocalyptic thing, so there's no other people you have to worry about. It's like they're in this disused power plant or factory or something. So there's just the cast of characters in that future year, and they all seem to wear normal clothes and have normal guns and all the rest of it because the apocalypse happens in 2017 or something, so they just have modern day stuff. And that's how you kind of get around the cost of sci-fi, because if you have something like Firefly cost a lot of money, and that's why part of the reason why it got cancelled when it had low numbers, because
You couldn't,
obviously Fox
couldn't
screwed
justify
up royally.
it. That's,
Huh?
yeah, the justification is small margins there at that stage.
Well, I mean, they had to make large portions of the Firefly itself out of wood and put it all together and have so all that kind of stuff costs a lot of money, obviously. So that's the problem with sci-fi. Whereas no one seems to be willing to put up with like the Doctor Who, Blake Seven kind of level of sci-fi from the 70s, where someone touches a wall and the wall wobbles like crazy because it's just made of plywood. Where you could get sci-fi at that level on the air. Like you could potentially do that, and some fan videos and stuff on YouTube and Vimeo and stuff do that. But really, there isn't the budgets to justify it. You'd need like a Game of Thrones style budget to do like a massive show and then get everyone to watch it. Cartoons do it though. There's plenty of like shows for adults that are animated.
Well, I know
That,
it'd just be interesting to see how these fads come and go, because I know in past episodes we've spoken about some of the new Netflix shows, and the Sense8 show we talked about a couple of weeks ago, which looks very like Lost or looked a bit like Heroes, and of course Heroes Reborn is going to come, and I'm sure when that gets closer to a launch date we'll probably talk about it on this podcast. But I just wonder when the trend will go when, say, something like Amazon or Netflix will say, right, we're going to do this now. And actually, it's a good thing to talk about and end this podcast on this, because if the Star Wars stuff kicks off with a bang this December, I could well see that fad coming together, and all of a sudden people go, yeah, here we go. And you can kind of see it. Gravity, Interstellar, Guardians of the Galaxy. It's ripe for a new space quest, game or a space quest type of a TV show. Bit of comedy or maybe play it straight. I mean,
because I was going to say to you about like I've been watching Daredevil, and
yeah.
for me at least, superheroes are done. Like they're going the way of zombies. Like zombie stuff. A few years back was huge, and now it's just dead. No one wants to watch zombies because it's just boring. Like I was a massive zombie film guy, fan, and I cannot stand the sight of like zombies are just done as a plot device. They're done, and superheroes, like I'm watching Daredevil and I'm just, yeah, I got it. I've seen this like 200 times at this stage. I really got it. And like the superhero movies that Marvel's making are excellent, and the TV show Daredevil is fine for what it is. It's just I'm done like with that stuff. I don't want to see it anymore. I could well see science fiction, space-based science fiction taking over from it.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of it. You know, from the Flash to Arrow to Agents of Shield, Marvel's Agents of Shield, Agent Carter, which I haven't even watched. To
I
then
watched a few episodes.
no, but there's so much. I mean, you've got that's just 4 to 5, comics from Marvel to DC, right there, right? Then there, and that's without even mentioning Daredevil. And then you straight to the movies, bum 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 bum, and there's going to be a new Avengers. The new Avengers is now, and there'll be new this, and there's going to be a new something else, and there's going to be a Flash movie now, starring a different actor. It's just they will kill the goose that lays the golden egg in this one. They need to slow it down.
They've already done it. Like everyone's jumped on that. Like some Jim Sterling was saying that all of the major publishers in games are chasing Call of Duty and Battlefield instead of going, hey, how about we take this market? They're all chasing the big market, which means that then everyone, like, there's only one or two winners in that. And the superhero things, it's the same. Like, the year that the last glut of movies came out, there was like 4 superhero movies. And Guardians of the Galaxy was obviously the huge winner. And the Thor movie and the Captain America movie and whatever else came out, they were all decent movies. There's just too many of them. Like, I don't care. Like, I'll go and see Guardians of the Galaxy because it looked like a good science fiction movie. Like, more for that than the fact that it was a Marvel movie. Whereas Captain America was like, yeah, no, I don't need to see that in the cinema. That's fine. I'll wait with that. And Thor and whatever. Captain America movie was good. I'm just done with superhero stuff, pretty much. And that's not to say I won't watch them. I'll probably watch them. It's just I won't go to the cinema for them. They're not things that I'm desperate to see. Whereas if there's another Interstellar or Gravity, I could easily see myself going to the cinema to see that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I suppose closing that, Mad Max is out in cinemas, and I think I do want to try and see it if I can while it's still there. It'd be interesting.
I do too, but yeah, it's just a cost thing. Like, everyone said it's really good. They said this is the best action movie they've seen in, like, ages. So I'd really love to see it, but...
it's so difficult, Simon, now. It's cost and it's time. Because it takes so long to get out there and get back, and as you say, and the money, whatever, it's just crazy. Look, last thing, we've gone on too long, we want a short podcast. Everyone's been saying it. I will pay €20 if I can get a day and date on my computer or whatever, because I'm saving money. Even if I'm paying €20 a ticket, digital is as good as watch. As long everyone's got a good screen now and probably a good sound system, it's as good. You don't have people with their phones, whatever. You can buy your own popcorn, pause it if you want to go to the loo, or whatever, particularly if it's Interstellar and it's going on for 3.5 hours. People are saying, give me day and date. I'll pay a premium. It's going to happen.
Like, iTunes are already doing like the HBO thing, so
smaller
just
independent
movies. Yeah. At the instant it comes out in the US, it's on iTunes for €20. Fine, I'll buy it. If for anything like for Mad Max or anything I really want to see, of course I will.
Absolutely, and I could well see, a way to sort of stop people. Look, day and date, people want to see these things. Sell it to them. Don't leave money on the table. Anyway, we have got to finish. And we will do so. This was episode 13. Things did not go crazily wrong so far, except for the fact that we went on far too long. Again, you can check out some of my stuff on Bad Barrister. I'm retweeting silly things, nerd stuff, TV stuff, movie stuff. I even retweet my gamer score on Xbox Live, so you can check me out there on @Bad Barrister. You can check out Simon's fantastic, delectable, is that even a word? Reading material on his website, simoncanton.com. A lot of reading stuff there, a lot of blog posts, also links to this show. You can catch this show on iTunes as well, the Pundit podcast. You can get Simon on S Canton.
Yep. S Canton on Twitter.
Yeah. and simoncantonagain.com, where you can, as I said, check out some of his books. There's some free samples there as well. You can order books. I even saw some weird merch. You can get T-shirts.
Oh yeah, you can get T-shirts and stuff. Like the fans of the series can get T-shirts with
Yeah,
series
keep up.
stuff on it.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll keep up to date with that. As I said at the start of the show, if you want to, you can catch us up on the social media sites and present some topics. We'll answer those questions if we get them. As I said, we want to make the show as interactive as possible. All right, we'll catch you again next week for episode 14. Until then.
Okay, everyone.
Yeah.